Hello and welcome to WMT Reviews Avengers Month. I am Wiseman Tanofsky. What can you even begin to say about Marvel? I remember in a time not so long ago when Marvel comic movies were the butt of the cinematic world's jokes, cliched shambles which never made a massive amount of money, especially when compared to their main rivals over at DC Comics. Let's face it, if you were asked to choose between Tim Burton's Batman and Daredevil, you choose Batman. If you had to choose between the original Superman movie and Ghost Rider, you'd be punching the Ghost Rider DVD into orbit. That's not to say they're all terrible. The original X-Men trilogy were enjoyable flicks, and I even found myself to enjoy the Spider-Man movies too. But ultimately, Marvel movies were a guilty pleasure to be hidden away and only shared with fellow fans of the awesome effects on Doc Ock's tentacles, or the chemistry between Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. How the times have changed. When I got word that Marvel was releasing a new series of films based on their comics, the one question I had was why? As far as I was concerned, DC had won the comic book movie war and there was nothing Marvel could do to stop them. Well, whatever Marvel did, they transformed the MCU from an embarrassing band of jokes to the second highest grossing movie franchise in the world, succeeding in a feat that no one thought possible with the release of the Avengers movie. Not even DC seems able to stop Marvel's rampage through the box office, and what were once guilty pleasures are now the movies that everyone looks forward to each year. Well, with the dawn of the Age of Ultron drawing near, and the prospect of a 22-hour cinema marathon at Leicester Square on my horizon, I thought the best way to celebrate would be to go back and review each of the MCU movies in turn, leading up to the big day itself. So, let's begin with the movie that started it all. This is the WMT review of Iron Man. So, what's the story? Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., is a genius billionaire playboy philanthropist, and the head of Stark Industries, a weapons manufacturer which produces the very latest and most advanced military weaponry in the world. However, after being held captive by a terrorist cell known as the Ten Rings, who are armed with weapons his company produces, Stark builds an improvised suit of armor to escape, return to America and set his legacy straight. Perfecting his design, Stark goes about destroying all the weapons that have been illegally sold to the enemy, with the help of his assistant Pepper, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and friend Rhodey, played by Terrence Howard. He uncovers a plot by his close friend Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges, to take over his company and steal the Iron Man suit design, creating his own more powerful version known as the Ironmonger. After an intense and very one-sided battle, Stark is able to outwit the Ironmonger and destroy it with Pepper's help, after which revealing his identity to the world with the words, "I am Iron Man." I think what makes Iron Man work is the fact that RDJ lives and breathes this role. When he says, "I am Iron Man" on that stand at the end of the film, you have to wonder if it's his character saying those words or if it's just Downey Jr. himself. He nails the character and personality of this role so perfectly that almost every adaptation of the Tony Stark character from that day, comics, books, television series, they all take his image. A lot like Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. They all try to emulate that wisecracking, sarcastic and playful boyish persona. And why shouldn't they? It's an amazing performance and it holds the first act of the film up all by itself, in scenes which could easily have been eye-rakingly boring with the wrong actors. But more than the playful side, he also plays the damaged and tormented side very well too. When he sees the weapons he created in the hands of the enemies he was trying to fight, he's completely devastated, and it translates well through his performance. So how do the rest of the cast hold up? Paltrow plays the doting and caring Pepper Potts like a refined art, really nailing the act of the supportive assistant, especially in the scenes following her discovery of the Iron Man armor, and Stark's grand plans. It's in scenes like this where her deep-seated care for her boss comes through, not just as a source of income, but deeper than that. And it comes through every time in a truly believable and likeable character. Howard's character of Rhodey is also very enjoyable. He does well as the by-the-book soldier who's trying to keep Stark in line with all the protocols he seems so adamant on violating. And I love the early tease for War Machine towards the final scenes of the film. Patience, fanbase. Patience. In terms of the Avengers story arc, we're introduced to two frontrunners, in the form of Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson, and of course Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, with Coulson providing the teaser, and Fury giving the fans the confirmation they'd been waiting for in the after-credits scene. If I close my eyes, I can still feel my ears ringing from that applause. But what about my favourite part of any movie, the villain, Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane? Going into this film, I knew nothing about Iron Man at all, being a thoroughbred DC boy myself. But I knew from the start there was something off about this guy. That cool temperament, those piercing eyes, that crooked half smile. Bridges delivers everything that I love in a villain, an actor who's enjoying every moment he's on screen. He plays the bitter and plotting second-in-command that wants to be leader character so well, and it's one of my favourite types of villains too. I'll always have a soft spot for the Starscreams of the world. But once he's found out, he takes things up to the next level. From the moment that he hits that desk and goes after Potts, we see a new side to him. Plotting is over and it's time for action. But he can still maintain that cool and calculating edge while he's tormenting Stark while he's paralysed in his home. He delivers some great battle banter in the Ironmonger suit, and he meets a very satisfying demise to cap it all off. A great movie villain, no questions asked. Superhero movies have always struggled with the balance between practical and digital effects, but Iron Man pulls it off fantastically. The suit is real for just enough to make the CG moments blend in perfectly. There's no dodgy animation moments to catch out, even when the hulking form of the Ironmonger stomps its way onto the screen. The physics are all worked out carefully, and the action flows perfectly. You can really believe that he's up there soaring through the skies with those F-22s, or battling in the clouds with the Ironmonger. It's fantastic. In truth, I think the MCU owes its success in no small part to the way this film was pulled off. It doesn't feel at all rushed or clumsy, everything's been given the time and the care that it needed, and the result is a resounding success of a film. Enjoyable performances, an interesting and deep story, good moral lessons to be learned, and a bit of kit that geeks everywhere would love to get their hands on. This film delivered everything it set out to achieve. While it may feel a touch slow off the starting line, once Stark is back in the States and demanding that cheeseburger, the film is well-paced, loaded with great action, a fantastic score, an excellent soundtrack by AC/DC which complements the movie perfectly, and characters I absolutely love watching every time. And for that, it earns itself a very strong 8.5 on the Orsometer. There are very few films that I could watch again and again for the rest of my life, but Iron Man is most certainly one of them. So that's an 8.5 on the Orsometer for Iron Man. Well, that's the first movie down. There's 10 more to go. I've been Wise Man Tanofsky. This has been WMT Reviews Avengers Month. I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for listening.